With the right people, a couple of friends, Larissa Hopwood and Amy McGarren, and yeah. And so I really want to thank them. I want to thank all the other folks who helped us in one way or another to pull this together, for the Borough Hall for hosting us, and thank you all for being here. We chose tonight because this week in the congressional schedule is designated as district work time. So we invited Congressman Fitzpatrick to speak to us tonight, to hear from his constituents and answer our questions. And we know that Congressman Fitzpatrick is here in his home district this week because he's hosting a fundraiser at Barley Sheaf on Friday.
Let's go.
So why isn't he here? Well, when asked why he will not conduct a town hall with his constituents, Fitzpatrick told the Bucks County Courier-Times that the chair of the National Republican Congressional Committee in Congress told his colleagues not to hold events like this with their constituents. So, you know, he said, no, you don't want to go out there and talk with the people who represent. And so here's what the Courier-Times reported last Sunday. They said, Fitzpatrick also echoed a statement from House Speaker Mike Johnson about, quote, paid troublemakers. The Bucks County lawmaker saying that, quote, oftentimes protesters are funded by these dark money groups. So let's clear the record on this. I am not part of any dark money group, and I have never been paid for my local political activities. How about you, Larissa? Are you part of a dark money group?
I would love it if they paid my rent. That'd be so great.
Where's Amy? Amy, you in a dark money group?
No.
No? It would be nice, but...
Is anybody here?
I'll take the dark money.
Okay.
Yes, raise your hand if you want dark money. What? No.
How many of you were paid to come here tonight?
No.
No. And this is what's bizarre, that people can't imagine that a group of citizens would want to get together voluntarily because we're concerned about what our government is doing. So, I'll just say that, you know, we haven't spent any money either, except the handouts. And so those will be 20 cents each, just kidding. No, there's no dark money, there's no money, period. It's just us. So this message from the Republican congressional leadership was just another lie, and our member of Congress, Brian Fitzpatrick, is parroting that lie in the press. The irony is, he's afraid to meet with the people he thinks are paid operatives, but he has no hesitation meeting with people who will pay him for the privilege. We're going to proceed as if Congressman Fitzpatrick were here. So let me start by airing some of my concerns. This man was elected to Congress, you know, the equal third branch of government, and yet as Trump steals the authority of Congress, Fitzpatrick is going along for the ride. 2 weeks ago, he voted to cut $880 billion from Medicaid to fund tax cuts for corporations and wealthy individuals, putting healthcare at risk for 70 million Americans, including almost 2/3 of nursing home patients. In that same vote, he approved $200 billion in cuts to SNAP, threatening food assistance to hundreds of thousands of poor children. This was done so that Congress, with a straight face, can adopt more tax cuts like they did in 2017. More than half of that money, about $2 trillion, goes to corporations, supposedly to stimulate our economy. But here's what they did with that money when the same tax cuts were in their lap after 2017. In 2018 and 2019, publicly traded American corporations bought back more of their own stock than at any time in American history. Instead of creating jobs, they used a gimmick to inflate their own stock prices. So the big winners were the biggest stockholders, members of their boards, and their C-suite executives. And then those folks got individual tax cuts. They're in the $1.1 trillion that Fitzpatrick voted for another tax cut for the wealthiest 1% of Americans. So to summarize, our member of Congress voted to cut health care and food assistance for the poorest and most vulnerable people he represents in order to fund tax cuts for corporations that don't reinvest that money and for the wealthiest people in our country. And then last week, he jumped on the Republican train to prevent Congress from stopping Trump's tariffs for at least a year. Congress normally has that authority, but they slipped into the resolution to prevent a government shutdown a provision that they cannot undo the tariffs for a year. So all this little side dealing is going on, and big side dealing. Our congressman has also stood by silently while Trump, Musk, and their company decimate federal agencies created and funded by Congress. One example is the National Institutes of Health, which has led the development of breakthrough medicines, including mRNA vaccines that ended the COVID pandemic.
Fake news.
Here's what the head of the cancer research at St. Jude's Research Hospital said about cuts to the NIH budget and staff. Quote, "This will likely mean that fewer experimental treatments will get to children. More children will die." I could go on for an hour myself about the issues that concern me, but we want to hear your concerns and questions. And we're recording this program so that we can share all that with Congressman Fitzpatrick. If we have more votes than we have time to hear, we will also give you all some ways to reach out to him directly. So, Larissa, who's our first speaker?
Hello, everybody. So we have an amazing crew of people who have offered to speak tonight. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize the people who were not able to be here. There are people who are connected with different crews who are being attacked right now. And their energy has been focused on making sure that they're taken care of. This is not any shade on them. This is so important for us to be able to reach deep into our communities, into what we care about, and make sure that we can be the leaders that we're all looking for. It doesn't matter what party we're affiliated with. It doesn't matter what our background is. It's really important for us to be able to look into our communities and figure out how we can help them. So I just wanted to honor that, to make sure that people understood that there are people who couldn't be here tonight and they wanted to be here. There are people who sent me messages. There are people who are here who felt like they were not comfortable speaking out because they felt like they were going to be attacked because of what they were going to stand up against. So I feel like that's so important to hold that space for them as well. So today, you ready? Sure. I'm going to call upon one of our bravest She served on our
Central Bucks School Board.
Thank you very much. All
I
right,
hope you thought I was one of the good ones.
Go for it. All right. Let's give her a big round of applause.
Well, welcome everyone. I have to say that when I pulled up and I couldn't park, I was so excited. Thank you for being here. It was actually it felt really good to watch people walking up the street and knowing that we were all coming here together. So thank you for being here, and thank you to everyone who helped organize it. So, yes, thanks for everything. I'm wearing red for Ed today. I did not go out in front of the schools because I had to go to work myself, but that's today's a red for public education, and that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. So, as Larissa said, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Tabitha Delangelo. I've been working in the field of education for more than 3 decades. I was on your Central Bucks School Board, and for the last 20 years, I've been working in the field of teacher preparation. So right now I'm the interim dean of a school of education. So I think about this all the time. It's all I do. And I want to really stress how important public education is. You know this now, but I will tell you that leading up to the last election, I reached out to folks running at all different levels. I sat next to Austin Davis at an event. I talked to Steve Sensiera. These are people I deeply respect and I love what they're doing. But when I said, can we talk about education? They were like, yeah, okay. You know, we'll talk about it. And the message I kept getting was, people don't vote about education. That's not what people care about. That's not what's going to get them to the polls. Not that our public leaders didn't care about it, because they do, but they didn't think that we cared enough that that would influence our vote. I hope that's not true. Say that again?
It's bullshit.
Thank you. I'm not gonna say that. I love to curse, but I'm gonna try not to do that tonight. So what we've seen over the last, definitely over the last couple of months, but really over the last almost 10 years. I wrote a paper in 2007 about the school choice movement. When I was in my own teacher education program in the mid-90s, we were talking about vouchers. And I will tell you, as a kid who grew up with very limited resources, when I heard school choice, I was really excited because I would have much rather gone to many other kinds of schools that I read about in books or that I heard that other people were going to. And so one of the things that the GOP is really good at is giving things names that make us go, yeah, of course, school choice. Yeah, why wouldn't we want school choice? But what's important is to kind of peel back those layers and figure out, well, what's going to happen if we move to a voucher system? Because what we know from states that are already using vouchers and using school choice is that they're benefiting people who already send their children to private school. So basically, it's becoming a subsidy for people who are already wealthy enough to send their kids to private school. And the idea to think like, look, you know where we live, right? So there are great schools around here. There are great public schools and there are great private schools. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the great private schools don't cost $10,000 a year, which is about the most that anybody has suggested that a voucher would be. So people who think they're gonna use that, they're still gonna have to dig into their own pockets for that. The other thing I wanna talk about is the myths, right? The myths and the facts about the Department of Education. So I've been posting a lot on social media about what the Department of Education does, what it doesn't do. We see rhetoric all the time about the Department of Education needs to go because they're indoctrinating our children. But the Department of Education has nothing to do with curriculum. They don't set curriculum, they don't hire teachers, and everybody who says that at a leadership level knows it. But I do think a lot of our neighbors who hear it, they believe it. They believe things about the Department of Education that just aren't true. They believe that they're hoarding money, that they're completely inefficient. And I'm not going to be Pollyanna about it. Can we do better in public education? Probably. Can we be more efficient? Sure. But dismantling the entire Department of Education is not the way to do it, because really what it is, it's a route to dismantle public education completely. And that is definitely not where we want to go. So for those of you who may not know, I want to tell you a little bit about why the Department of Education is vitally important. It ensures federal education programs are implemented effectively. Some of those programs include math, science, and foreign language education, and funding for training for school counselors. They also ensure that students of all backgrounds, regardless of income, language, or ability, have the support they need to succeed. So here are some of the programs that the Department of Education funds. Title I. Title I provides $18.4 billion to schools serving high numbers of low-income students. This is a program that helps close the achievement gap. And if you think that we don't have Title I schools in Central Bucks, you're wrong, because we do. Because something that gets overlooked about Central Bucks all the time is that we're not super racially diverse. We're not. Look around the room. But we are socioeconomically diverse. We have people who live in our community, who are living paycheck to paycheck, who are struggling, and we have folks who live in mansions. Like, that's where we are. But Title I will absolutely impact Central Bucks. It also protects the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act that ensures that children with disabilities receive the education they deserve. This is about $14.2 billion in funding. This is a lot of money. And I've been getting this feedback. Just let the states do it. Okay, fine. There's a couple problems with that. One is every state might do it differently, which means a child's access to free and appropriate education could depend on the state where they live. That's not a good idea. The other thing, just like do the math. Just say we've got a team at the Federal Department of Education that does this work. They're saying it'd be more efficient to hire people in every state. You know what I mean? Like, there's just these things that are just driving me crazy. Anyway, I just want to say this too. Programs like these don't just benefit individual students. They benefit society. Because when we have an educated populace, it's good for everyone. This is beyond funding the Department of Education, beyond funding, the Department of Education protects students' civil rights. The Office of Civil Rights at the Department of Education, I tried to go on their website today, you just get a little spinning circle. And we know that students, even in our district, have had to utilize those services to protect their rights. So this is also super important. And let's not forget the department's role in higher education. The biggest part of the budget of the Department of Education is financial aid for college, right? And I'm not talking, I know it's controversial whether we should do loan forgiveness, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about financial aid for students. So access to higher education, that is at risk right now. Pell Grants. Pell Grants are at risk right now because this administration is threatening to take away Pell Grants from any college or university that doesn't scrub their websites of words like diversity, inclusion, sense of belonging is literally on the list, right? So these are really important. So we talked about already, I'm gonna skip because I'm taking up too much time, but I just want to say this. History has shown us the importance of a strong, centralized approach to educational policy. From the creation of Title I in 1965 to the establishment of the Department of Education in 1979, federal leadership in education has been about one thing: ensuring that all students, regardless of their zip code, have access to a quality education. And I also want to dispel this myth. You're going to hear this over and over if you haven't already. It is absolutely not true that prior to the Department of Education, we were #1. That is not true. That is, right? And it is not true that we are last now, right? So there's a whole nother discussion to be had about the utility of standardized test scores. But we were never first, and we're not last, and we're not even near the bottom. So please, look these facts up because these are true. So as we look to the future, we must continue to support and strengthen public education. The Department of Education is not just a bureaucracy. It's a safeguard to fairness, it's a provider of opportunities, and it's a crucial part of ensuring that every child in America gets the education they deserve. Thank you.
And just address the elephant in the room. Sorry. I also don't want to necessarily point specifically to Brian Fitzpatrick because he's not the only one who can make some impactful changes for us. We have our senator, Fetterman, who we need to hold accountable. We also have state senators, we have state representatives who are there, who need to hold the line for us, which is so important. So we are going to hopefully send all of this stuff to them so that they can see what's going on. Tab, thank you so much for everything that you said. We're going to hold questions to the end. I know there may be some questions about what's going on, so hopefully our speakers will be able to stick around. If they can't, that's okay. We totally get that. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to them. I would like to call up our next person, who is Rebecca Hone, a good friend of mine, and somebody who is deeply connected to the library system. So come on up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rebecca Hone. I am a lifelong resident of Bucks County and a lover of libraries. I have volunteered and or worked in the Bucks County Free Library system for much of the last 25 years. On March 14th, President Trump issued an executive order directing further cuts to an agency that's already operating at a minimum level. Making up only 0.0046% of the overall federal budget, such a little bit. And this is museums and libraries. IMLS, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, already efficiently provides critical resources to libraries and museums in all 50 states and territories. You can tell this is getting.
Keep going, you're good, you're good.
You're doing awesome.
The American Library Association warns us that eliminating the only federal agency dedicated to library funding. Oh, I just have to breathe. I am not a public speaker. Parents told me that I could do hard things tonight, so I'm doing it. The association noted that libraries of all types were already receiving just 0.3%, 0.3, that's libraries, percent of the federal budget, yet still managed to provide essential programs and services accessed through more than 1.2 billion in-person visits annually. And that's not counting virtual visits or digital initiatives. And all of us that are downloading books and reading things and accessing e-resources online, it's not counting any of that, it's just people visiting the library. I stand with the American Library Association, and I hope all of you will too, in imploring that President Trump reconsider this short-sighted decision. To dismantle the agency is to dismiss the aspirations of everyday needs of millions of Americans. And those who will feel that loss most keenly live in rural communities, which depend on these institutions for education, information, and community support. Libraries in Bucks County will be impacted, but we'll probably survive. I mean, we're gonna do okay. There's money in Bucks County, and local support, the state, the county, the municipalities, as well as support from patrons, people like you and me. It's the libraries in the lower income areas of Pennsylvania and all across the country that are truly gonna suffer if these cuts go through. Some folks may think that libraries are no longer relevant because one can just Google things or download books to read, but you can't download a book for free if you don't have a library card. We found out how vital we all were during the pandemic when people couldn't get access to their library materials. In addition, libraries offer so much more than just books and information. They build community. Libraries are one of the few places where everyone is welcome, where there's no expectation of having to spend any money to be there. Where else can you do that? Libraries provide computer access to printing, copying, scanning, maker spaces, after-school activities, educational programs, early literacy programs, financial literacy programs, musical programs, we've had Lolly many times, and meeting spaces, among other things. Like our national parks, libraries and museums significantly add to our quality of life. They offer such great return on very little investment. Remember how I mentioned that IMLS accounts for 0.0046% of the federal budget? In my opinion, that's money well spent. I suspect that the majority of Americans would agree. Do you?
Yes.
Please reach out to your members of Congress and encourage them to oppose cuts to the IMLS. Thank you.
Thank you.
We talked earlier about what you can do to support your libraries, so maybe pay your fines. If you can't, just drop your books off that you haven't dropped off and run. They'd appreciate that as well. So anyhow, libraries are huge, and also it's like in a moment where we are looking at billions and billions of dollars being put into Amazon. And Amazon's a thing that's really hard for us all to break. If we can just switch to our libraries instead of Audible, that's a huge step forward. So anyhow, thank you so much. Our next speaker that we would like to bring up, Heidi, are you ready? All right, we have our friend Heidi Rue, who is one of the people who runs Immigrant Rights Action. Immigrant rights are intensely impacted right now. And if you don't understand what's going on, I hope that you can really open your hearts and listen to what she is about to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and what a wonderful crowd. I mean, this really shows the power of our community and gets our voices heard. So thank you all for being here. I don't want to take away from this event, because what I do want to start off by saying is please take action. Please reach out to your representatives. Please let them know what you care about and what we need in our community, in our town, in our county, in our state, in our country. Now I'll talk about my favorite thing to talk about, immigration. My name is Heidi Rue. I'm the Executive Director at Immigrant Rights Action. I am the only employee, and I have a wonderful, very active board of 6. I have countless volunteers, whether it's because you speak another language or because you're helping me stuff envelopes, and I could not do this work without you. We have been busy, and that is an understatement. Our mission is to ensure that the human rights of our neighbors are upheld. And how do we do that? I'm out there doing Know Your Rights trainings because, contrary to popular belief, just because you live here in the United States, your feet are on our land, you have constitutional rights. So my goal is to get out there and yell that loud and proud and make sure others have that knowledge and feel empowered. I did write a cheat sheet. Tabitha intimidated me with her written speech. So there are a couple points that I don't want to miss. One is that we are a small nonprofit. We are the only nonprofit here that directly serves immigrants in Bucks County. We do not receive any county, state, federal funding, and I do not see that changing. We survive because of donors and our local foundations that support us. And we could not be here and continue the work that we do without your help. So I do want to put a plug in for our annual fundraiser, which is on May 1st. We hold it at the Pearl S. Buck House because her mission was also, is very aligned with ours. We are recognized by the Department of Justice.
Sure?
Yes. I renew that every year. I think it is important, and it helps me feel comfortable speaking across the aisle and to anyone. Because what we do is we connect immigrants in Bucks County and surrounding areas with access to legal immigration services. No, there is no line to stand in. No, there is no, there are a lot of myths out there. I can tell you the facts, and the facts are that an immigration case can range $8,000 to $12,000. And that to get started, you need to retain an attorney. And what we do is we help our community access these attorneys by providing free legal consultations, which usually costs about $200, and you usually have to drive to Philly. So we break the transportation barrier, we break the financial barrier. And when a process is identified for someone to regularize their status, We assist them with $500 from our legal defense fund to get that process started. Because while there are a lot of undocumented folks and there are a lot of documented folks, there is a whole spectrum in between. And while they are in process for an immigration process to regularize their status, they have every right to be here. So our goal is to get as many immigrants in that pipeline as possible. It does not only help our communities, but also our families in our communities. So as you already know, we are a very diverse community. Immigrants are entrepreneurs, business owners. We rely on immigrant labor here in Bucks County for the service industry, for restaurants, for agriculture, for so much. I truly believe immigration is an economic issue. If there was not a demand, there would not be supply. And as an immigrant myself, my heart and soul is in my work that I do. So my favorite thing to do is when I assist someone enroll a child in school, is to continue keeping in touch with the families, and years down the road to seeing these kids come in and intern and volunteer with me. Having come here at the age of 6, not knowing one word of English, I can tell you that being able to say I am not only part of our community, but humbly say I am a pillar in our community, is my dream for every immigrant in our community. And how is our community going to continue to thrive and grow economically, financially, and sustainability? It's by ensuring that every single member of our community has access to thriving, and for immigrants, it is access to legal services. The last thing that I do want to touch base on is, there are a lot of myths out there. There's a very uncomfortable narrative out there, but I want to tell you that while the fear is heightened among everyone regarding enforcement and ICE activity, that if anyone can deal with uncertainty and unprecedented events, it is immigrants. I believe in our strength, and I know that that we will all persevere together. So, I do want to let you know that there is ICE activity in our area. We are very aware of it. Over the weekend, Chalfont, Warminster, these are, this is happening. And what can you do to help? Well, you can help me, help others. But you can also go on the ACLU website. There's a great, there are a lot of toolkits that have been developed at a national level from the immigrant rights movement. I have not recreated any wheels. I am just pushing out what we are pushing out at a national level. There are little red cards that you can order and distribute among your community, put them at libraries, put them at grocery stores. You can watch the short videos. They're called We Have Rights on the ACLU website. You can share them. If you know of any business owners that need me to go in there, I've done Know Your Rights trainings in a kitchen at a restaurant last week. Please reach out to me. I am never too busy to do the work that I do. So my card is out on the table. If not, again, we are Immigrant Rights Action. our website, immigrantrightsaction.org. And we are a 501c3. We have been so since 2019. And the last thing I want to say is that we were founded in 2017 because of an ICE raid in Doylestown. And we will continue to work tirelessly to ensure that the human rights and the constitutional rights of our entire community are upheld. Thank you.
So a lot of people are saying, what can we do if we can all avoid our coffee tomorrow and put $5 over in immigrant rights action? That'd be good. Holy cannoli. All right, we have our friend Ann Ferguson. Is she here? Hello, Ann. Ann is here to talk about the SAVE Act.
Yeah, okay. All right. So Tabitha had it perfectly when she said they put these names on things, the acronym, whatever, that just sounds positive. So I'm talking about the SAVE Act, which I'm sure most of you have heard of. And it's like, well, that sounds okay. You know, what's a SAVE Act? What are we saving? Well, to safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. And once again, though that sounds okay, we want to safeguard voting. Well, actually, this bill represents voter suppression at its finest. It's kind of diabolical. Before we get started, I would like to know how many of you know where your birth certificates are? Okay, that's one. How many of you have a valid passport? Okay, about the same number. Okay, I'll come back to that later. You're like, what is she talking about? Okay, a little background. The House introduced House Bill 22 last May, and that was the SAVE Act. It passed the House with 5 Democrats voting for it, and thankfully it stalled in the Senate, and the Senate bill is 128. It is going to be reintroduced probably any day now and will go directly to the House floor because they've already voted on it and they've already passed it. So this is a bit scary. This is a Trump-backed bill that was designed as a way of safeguarding voting because there are still claims of unsubstantiated voter fraud. You know that's not true. It requires proof of citizenship when registering to vote. Well, that doesn't sound bad either. Okay, you know, we kind of have to already do that. But then until you hear what's involved. So voter registration with this bill, if this passes, will always be in person. So no more motor voter, no more registering online. It will be in-person registration. And this will cost, of course, the states money. We're all about throwing more money back in the states. Individuals must present a valid birth certificate or naturalization papers to prove citizenship. And then also present a government-issued photo ID, and the names have to match. Well, this is where it gets complicated. I know where I'm going. If you have a passport, you're okay because you've already proven your citizenship and connected your birth certificate name with your passport name. And I mention this because 69 million women have taken their spouse's last name and do not have a birth certificate that matches their legal name now. So this is a huge problem because if you don't have a passport, you have to use your marriage certificate to prove your marriage and change of name, and that goes on and on. So there are details still to be worked out with that, but similarly, transgender people who have changed their name to reflect their gender identity may be denied new passports and become ineligible to register to vote because the names must match. So who does this discriminate against besides women and transgender individuals? More than 21.3 million Americans lack immediate access to proof of citizenship like a birth certificate or passport. And I can't find a consistent answer on real ID being acceptable because the requirements are not the same from one state to the next. I did read that there are 5 states that seem to have more strict requirements, and so those would match this. bill. Unfortunately, Pennsylvania is not one of them. So, and as among the other problems with the bill, it is intentionally vague. So if Congress throws it back on the states to figure out what they're going to do with it. But at the same time, they have said, but if a voting clerk makes an error in registering someone to vote who shouldn't be voting, they can be subject to criminal prosecution. So they're serious about this. Citizens of color are 3 times more likely than white citizens to lack documents such as birth certificates, passports, proof of citizenship. More than 140 million Americans do not have a passport, and elderly Americans are one of the demographic groups least likely to have one or have let it expire. Registering person brings up problems with access. Disabled people already encountered problems with voting, and now we're going to take one more step where they have to go to the courthouse to register to vote and navigate more access. An in-person registration requirement would prevent members of the military serving abroad from easily registering to vote. And in Alaska and Hawaii, people might actually have to get on a plane to fly somewhere to register to vote because it has to be in person. This bill would end motor voter registration and nonprofits helping people register, and it would effectively end third-party registrations. If it were to become law, this bill discriminates against first-time voters, low-income citizens, and new citizens. So I looked into the cost of getting a birth certificate for those of us who have lost them. I think I know what mine is. It's $20 per copy, but then online the fee is $10, so there's $30. Cost of getting a passport for a first-time passport is $165 now, and $130 for renewal. Your photo is $15. You're applying in person, that's $35. A passport card, which is kind of handy, is $30. But if you want to expedite it, then you have to pay $60. So you're looking around, $200 plus, close to $300 to get a passport. So let me make it really clear. If you are currently registered to vote and this bill becomes law, you're okay. This law will not impact you. But the minute you decide you want to change party affiliation or you move, you have to do all of this. And every time you move, you have to do it. So, I'm going to give you an example. My 93-year-old mom, been voting for 70 years, and in the same town, in the same precinct, has moved, within a 2-block area, a couple of times. She still lives in the house she and Dad raised us kids in. My mother let her passport lapse. I don't think she got real ID. She didn't feel strongly about it. She does have a valid driver's license, even though she doesn't drive anymore. But my mother is considering assisted living facilities. If she moves, she will have to go through all this. A 70-year super voter who has to prove her citizenship in the United States. And doesn't that just bring it all to the center, this is insane, this is crazy, but this is how they want it to be. So, this bill would amend the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. It was introduced to create a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Voter fraud is rare. It would make it difficult for so many Americans to register to vote, Republicans and Democrats alike. The right to vote is guaranteed in the Constitution, and the 15th, 19th, and 26th Amendments further guarantee the right to vote. The 26th Amendment was the one that lowered it from age 21 to 18. So, something is wrong with Congress to believe that it is necessary to make it more difficult to register to vote. So, Congressman Fitzpatrick, please don't support a voting bill that will make it difficult for ordinary Americans to vote. It is their constitutional right to do so.
is all really intense. Okay, I would like to ask Teddy, are you here? Hey. Teddy Moynihan runs Plowshare Farms. You are like an owner of Plowshare Farms, right? In a way? Yeah, absolutely. All right, we would love to hear about what you've got going on.
Thank you, Love.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Teddy Moynihan. I have been farming in Bucks County for 12 years, starting our 13th season right now. About a year ago, I took a job off the farm as a technical assistance provider with helping to distribute a federal grant to help farmers implement conservation practices to make their farms more efficient, more environmentally sound, and more resilient in the face of extreme weather. I took the job off the farm because I wanted to have a little more influence on the farm system than just the borders of my own farm. I wanted a more steady paycheck, regular hours, and a bit more stability than farming had provided in the previous 12 years. About a month ago, our program was canceled in the federal funding freeze. My last day will be April 1st, along with 70 other employees of the organization that I work with. The funds were frozen. Little by little, agricultural funding has been unfrozen and released, but ours has not been, and it has been called a radical left climate policy program. I don't know what's radical about helping a farmer write a prescribed grazing plan to make his dairy more efficient. I don't know what's left about planting a windbreak to protect crops from extreme weather. I don't know what's partisan about planting cover crops to build soil and reduce fertilizer expenses. Agriculture and small-scale agriculture is not a partisan issue, and it should not be. Just because the word climate was in the name of our program shouldn't mean that this program gets axed. Everybody I meet, left, right, center, agrees that small-scale local farms are, in some ways, the backbone of our community. Obviously, we have a globalized food system, and that's fine. But I often think back to Trump's last presidency, the only time in my life that I've seen empty shelves at the grocery store. First couple of weeks, month or so after COVID really hit, when we were in the throes of the pandemic, I went to the Giant in Plumsteadville and there was no flour. Literally, no wheat in the grocery store. I went to Castle Valley Mill the next day and I was able to buy a big 10-pound bag of flour, milled in Doylestown from grain grown in Regalsville. I see Tricia and Tom here from Blooming Glen. I'm sure your CSA membership went up 2020, 2021. We sold off basically our entire flock of sheep in 2020 because it kept our farm afloat, and to satisfy loyal customers that have been with us for the years before that. We did home meat delivery for all of 2020 with that flock of sheep that we had. When things collapse around us, we rely on our local food system. When things collapse around us, we rely on our community. Whether it's all the issues we've been talking about, the public library, when you got nowhere else to go, you go to the library. When you need someone to play your daughter's birthday party, you call Miss Lolly. When things get bad, and when things are good, we rely on our community. And policy, public policy is how we bring our community values to all Americans, right? We are really lucky where we are. Upper Bucks County, beautiful Bucks County. Farms nearby, you can go pick your own flowers, you can join a CSA, you can come to a farm dinner at our place. Not everyone is so lucky to grow up 5 miles from a farm or next door to a farm. Public policy, laws, we use public policy to make sure that these things that we have access to, other people also have access to. And this was policy. We had a really great grant program to help make our farms more efficient, more resilient, more environmentally sound, and it was canceled. And I look at what's been unfrozen. The corn and soy subsidies, they're flowing again. The large-scale dairy subsidies, that money is going out the door. Taxpayer money, right? And I don't begrudge the large farmers those subsidies. We have subsidized agriculture for a long time. It creates a more stable food system, right? And I really don't. I don't begrudge the corn and soy farmers their subsidies. They're feeding the world. They are. But our local farms are feeding Bucks County. And those are the farms that we need to support. And I would ask Representative Brian Fitzpatrick, release the funds, honor the contracts. The US government The US government is not honoring signed lawful contracts with farmers. When you take out a loan from the US government and you sign your name on the line, you can't just decide not to pay, right? Farmers have laid out hours and hours and hours preparing grants, planning projects, and often outlaid their part of the cost share. A lot of these programs are a cost share. You pay half, the government pays half. If you pay half and the government skips out on the bill, a lot of farmers are left in the lurch, right? So, action items. Call your representatives. The organization I work with has a policy team, or that I used to work with, I work with for another week, that seems to suggest that Senator McCormick may be receptive to calls to release the funds. I don't know if he's trying to shore up the agricultural constituency or what. Call McCormick, call Fitzpatrick, call Fetterman, and call the Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins. We've left her 100 voicemails in the past month, and we need 100 more, 200 more, right? Donate to farm and food system advocacy groups, PASA Sustainable Agriculture, the Bucks County Food Shed Alliance, No for New Jersey, the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition. These are the organizations that are going to pick up the slack when the government funding stops. Donate to them. Support your local farms and farmers. Blooming Glen. I don't know if you're taking more CSA members now, join your CSA. Brewster River Farm, Highburg Farm, Blue Stem Botanicals, Penny Packs, Wallet Hill Farm. Support your local farms, right? Mutual aid, we show up for each other. When no one else has got us, we've got us, right? And lastly, invite a friend. I love that it's standing room only, right? But I want a bigger room next time we do this. So, with everybody, if everyone would humor me, I got the round of applause. If everyone would take out your phone right now and text one friend, right? The last 2 months have been really hard. I feel better now than I did this afternoon. I felt better after screaming in the street a couple of weeks ago, President's Day, right? Please, take out your phone, text one friend that's not here right now and tell them, I'm at a community forum. I feel a little better now than I did before I came. You should come next time. Right? Let's have twice as many people here next time. Thank you. Yep. Someone asked what's the name of the program that got canceled. It's called the Partnership for Climate Smart Commodities. Thank you.
And also, text me all that stuff later. I'll post it. So we created a little crew called Doylestown Action League. It's little tiny on Facebook right now. So if you guys follow that, or if you guys know who I am on social media, let me know. I'll put it out there so you guys can get all the information that we've been talking about tonight. All right, do I have my friends at Blooming Glen? Do you want to talk? No? Oh? You coming up?
That's a tough one to follow then. So I don't want to belabor the farming angle, but I'm just going to share a little bit about the specifics of a grant that we also lost on our farm. So I'm Tricia Borneman, and with my husband Tom, we are owners of Blooming Glen Farm in Percy. It's a certified organic vegetable farm, and we are in our 20th season. We have a large CSI. So despite the passion and joy we derive from our work there, our many inherent challenges to farming, slim profit margins, access and competition for affordable land, especially in Bucks County, But by far the biggest challenge after extreme weather is finding a reliable and consistent workforce. So 15 months ago, I applied to a program administered and funded by the USDA called the Farm Labor Stabilization Program, FLSP for short. The FLSP program is a 2-year grant program that helps meet those labor challenges by reimbursing farmers for certain practices that create safer, healthier work environments for U.S. workers and seasonal H-2A visa workers. A big part of this program was agreeing to participate in research to evaluate its effectiveness. Research findings would inform employers' best practices to attract and retain skilled agricultural employees, guide industry policymakers, and shine a light on areas needing support and technical assistance. This program will ultimately improve food and agricultural supply chain resiliency by helping farmers like us with labor shortages and by strengthening the H-2A worker visa program. But I should not have to argue for the validity or the importance of this grant program that was already decided over a year ago after a very extensive application process. And contracts were signed, commitments were made. My 3-inch thick binder that is full of papers speaks to over a year of work and hours of trainings and webinars. There are over 100 farms across the country that have been promised reimbursement by the USDA. Many farms like us have already invested substantial money in the recruitment, transportation, housing, and training of their H-2A employees at considerable cost, and we have yet to receive a single dollar of reimbursement. If the FLSP is cut, farms will go out of business. I was on a Zoom call today with farms all across the country, all different sizes, most of us small in the scheme of the corn and soy farmers, but people are devastated. I mean, everybody has been working towards getting their reimbursements and put out all those expenses, and they're looking at not getting any. So this was funded through the American Rescue Act, which makes it a target in the current funding freeze. It could be canceled entirely unless Secretary Rollins takes action. That's what we keep hearing from the USDA, is they're waiting to hear back from the administration as it is under review. So what can you do? Just what Teddy said, we've been told to call anybody on the Agricultural House Committee. Pennsylvania has 2 representatives.
One's the chair.
One of them is actually the chair, Congressman Glenn Thompson from Pennsylvania, and Congressman Rob Bresnan, and also Representative Brian Fitzpatrick. Let's reach out to him. We would love to see this grant honored, and for the future of labor issues and
Security of the food system.
Yeah. So thank you.
Outrageous. This is, yes.
Is someone capturing these things that they're saying so that
Yeah.
it's posted and we don't have to try to write everything down?
100%. So we've got a little cameraman right over there. Hi. We are going to make sure that we send all of this to all of our representatives. Not
posted somewhere that we can see it.
Not the whole thing.
100%.
Watch the whole thing.
Larissa,
For sure.
I'll have a Beacon article tomorrow with all the action items everybody said too.
Okay, thank you. So we've got Leela over there. She's gonna do a Beacon article that's got all this information in it. So we'll make sure to post it. Can I ask everybody, all right, how many people found this through social media? What? Okay, perfect. How many people got this through emails? Okay, great. How did everybody else get it? How do people get information these days? Word of mouth. Okay, fantastic. From neighbors. Okay, fantastic. So wherever you got this information, we're going to make sure that it gets back to you. And again, I'm hoping that this is not a single party issue. I feel like everything that we've been talking about tonight, everything goes across the aisle. So if there's anybody here who are Republicans, who are independents, I hope that you're listening and that you're taking this to heart. Democrats, I hope that you're taking this to heart too, because it's like we need to hold our elected officials accountable for what's going on, for sure. This is, we're trying to make a difference here. Whew, holy cannoli. I feel like I need some water. Okay, is Josh Fields here? Hey. All right, we've got Josh, and he's gonna talk about Medicaid. Who's excited about this one?
It's been a long day, so I do need this. Good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Fields. I serve as co-founder and executive director of the Next Step programs. Tonight is a special night, not just because we're here to talk about all these important issues that impact thousands of lives, but today also marks 10 years since the Next Step programs began. We started as an idea that young adults with disabilities deserve more opportunities, more independence, and more support as they transitioned into adulthood. What began as a grassroots effort has grown into an organization serving individuals and families across our community, helping them navigate services, find employment, and build meaningful lives. At the core of our mission and the foundation of so much of what we do is Medicaid. Medicaid services aren't just a line item in a budget or a policy debate. They are a difference between independence and isolation, between opportunity and hardship. For individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, Medicaid funds everything from in-home and community-based services to employment programs, transportation, and critical therapies. It allows young adults to continue learning life skills, working towards their goals, and contributing to their communities. At the Next Step, we see the real impact of these services every single day. We work with young adults who have dreams of getting their first job, moving into their own apartment, or simply being a part of a community in a way that is meaningful to them. Medicaid makes that possible. It provides the funding that allows our programs and so many others to exist. Without it, families would be left with impossible choices, and too many people would fall through the cracks. But let's be clear, Medicaid services are not a handout. They are an investment. They're an investment in people, an investment in their futures. When we support Medicaid, we are saying that people with disabilities deserve the same opportunities that you and I have. As we look towards the next decade of what the Next Step is, we are committed to expanding our services, increasing access, and ensuring that every person we serve has a chance to thrive. But we can't do it alone. We need policymakers, community leaders, and everyday advocates to stand with us in protecting and strengthening Medicaid services. So tonight, I ask you and Representative Fitzpatrick, stand with the families who rely on these services, stand with the young adults who dream of independence, and stand with us in making sure Medicaid remains strong, accessible, and fully funded. Together, we can ensure that every person, regardless of disability, has the opportunity to take their next step forward. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tina DiBiaso. Above everything, I'm a mom. 25 years ago, my son was born at Doylestown Hospital with Down syndrome. At that time, the pediatrician told us that he probably wouldn't walk till he was 5. He might never talk, and if we chose to bring him home, he could be a detriment to his older sister and make her life not as good as it could be. Well, instead of Sean going into an institution, which is his right, and still is his right today, we chose to bring him home and raise him in this community. Thankfully, through Medicaid dollars, and early intervention, he received physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech. He walked at 2 years old. Yeah. The doctors had him wrong on a lot of things. He also used Medicaid funding throughout his entire 16 years at the Central Bucks School District to not only help him with an aid so he could be included, and all of his classmates had the benefit of being with him and learning from him, and vice versa. But once again, it covered his occupational therapy, his physical therapy, and his speech therapy. And let me tell you, that kid can talk now. When Sean was finishing high school, he talked about his vision of his adult life. And it was the same as his sisters. It was the same as his brothers. with the exception of college. He wanted to go to college to drink beer. We did put a nix on that, he did not go to college. But he had the same vision as everyone else that he went to school with. And both my husband and I realized that we could not help him with that, totally with that vision on our own. So thankfully, Medicaid dollars, he received what's called a waiver, and there are anywhere from 10 to 13 waivers at any given time in the state of Pennsylvania. And through these waivers, which are funded by Medicaid, he has a job coach, and he has now been employed at Chuck E. Cheese in Warrington for 3 years. He works 3 days a week, and he is in a Chucky costume. So if you're at Chuck E. Cheese on Monday, Tuesday, or Saturday, and you see Chucky, say hi, Sean. But he uses a job coach to help him learn new skills at his job and to help him be successful, where he pays taxes, just like every other employee at Chuck E. Cheese. In addition to that, so my husband and I could both keep working when Sean finished high school. Because think about it, he cannot be left home alone all day long. And my husband and I both work pretty much full time. So using his Medicaid waiver, he also goes to a day program. It happens to be the Next Step programs. 2 days a week, which is a community integrated program. And I guarantee everyone in this room has seen our participants in the community. It is 100% community all day long. They do a lot of volunteer work, and we got some great ideas tonight, Josh, for additional volunteer opportunities for our participants. So without Medicaid and the funding that has been given to Sean, he would not have the quality life today that he deserves, that everyone deserves. So once again, Representative Fitzpatrick, please do not cut Medicaid.
So if people want to contribute, it's Next Steps?
Yeah, tnsprograms.org.
Okay, did you guys hear that? TNS
Will that all be
programs.org.
written somewhere for us?
Absolutely, Leila's got us covered. I was gonna share it wide. Do I have Elisa? How? Alyssa, all right. All right. Whew. She is going to be speaking right now about Doge. Sorry, everybody. We have to talk about it though, right?
It's the best reaction I've heard. Hi, my name is Alyssa. I'm a resident in Chalfont, here in Bucks. Last month, I was fired from my position as a federal employee in the Department of Treasury. Last week, the courts ruled that our terminations were illegal and that we were to be immediately reinstated. But many agencies, Treasury included, have really made no effort to actually reinstate us back into our positions. They've told us to not work, not show up to our office buildings, and there's just no plans as to when or if we will be returning. And some agencies haven't even informed their fired employees that they are being reinstated. And now we know with the mass layoffs that are right around the corner, all federal employees are just in limbo, wondering and fearing that they may be next. At this point, we don't know exactly how many employees have been fired. Our best estimates is around 30,000 people. And with those layoffs, tens of thousands more people are going to be affected. Right, and those are big numbers, those are huge numbers. It's hard to envision 30,000 different names and faces and lives that have been completely upended by this administration. So I'm thankful for the chance to stand before all of you and be a face and a name and a real person representing how this impacts our community. I was a probationary employee when I was fired, meaning that I had been with the agency for less than a year. I was actually 2 weeks away from hitting my 1 year mark. And most of those who were fired were also probationary employees. And probationary employees were the fresh blood, the fresh eyes. They were excited and eager and passionate about bringing their experience to the federal government. I'm a CPA with many accomplishments in the private sector. I am in my 11 months on the job. I had already made significant contributions. I was highly rated, and my team, top to bottom, praised me for my performance. And despite the administration's claims that we were fired due to our poor performance, my record clearly shows that that was not the case. But my reason for becoming a civil servant was simple. I wanted to help the American people. I wanted to serve my country using my expertise to make a real difference. On the first day of my job, I swore an oath to the Constitution, and it was one of the proudest moments in my career. I worked hard every single day to uphold that oath, to serve the American people. And I am so disappointed and I'm so mad at our elected officials for not taking their oath as seriously. So it's up to us to remind them of their duty. Their duty is not to themselves. It is not to their special interests. It's to the American people. And federal employees show up every single day to serve the American people. Civil servants are truly the backbone of our country. They embody the famous quote, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." And this heartless treatment, holding the future of people's jobs hostage, dismissing their contributions, and maybe worse, spreading lies and vilifying them is shameful. So if you know any federal employees, reach out to them, check in on them, remind them that you recognize their contributions and that you stand by them. Thank you.
I think we're almost at the end here. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for talking about that. So I just wanted to take a quick second to talk about the attack on the LGBTQ community, specifically the trans community. So I am the proud mama of a trans son. I mean, it's just parenting a kid, so I'm just applause. So I constantly am like, you know, is this just like parenting a 16-year-old or is this parenting a trans kid? I don't know. But I think that taking a second to, we talked about it a little bit with the SAVE Act, yes, about how they are specifically targeting trans people. And I think taking a second to talk about the fact that trans people, Black people, and immigrants have carried so much of our progress over the years. It's huge. The T has been taken off of the Stonewall site is bonkers. It's ridiculous because without the trans people who fought for LGBTQ rights, we would not be in the place that we are right now. So we're in a place right now where our kids who are trans and who are in the LGBTQ community are being targeted. It's about 1%, and I love the moment where they talk about how we're focusing on the wrong 1%. You know, it's like there's the 1% who's at the top who is making all of these problems happen, and then we've got the 1%. There's a lot of 1% that are being targeted on the bottom, unfortunately. So anyhow, sorry, I'm getting a little distracted. My issues right here are that attacking trans kids, it's sowing division within the LGBTQ community, it's putting the rights and privacy of women and girls at risk, it's opening them up to invasive and non-consensual exams if they decide that they are not feminine enough, which is very problematic. It's endangering kids who are in the closet, that people who are in the LGBTQ community are much higher risk for depression and for anxiety. It's endangering our rights to make medical decisions and to have insurance coverage for our basic decisions, our medical decisions. And this goes across the board, so it's starting here with trans and non-binary folk, and it is going to spread out amongst the rest of our community. So what we need to do right now is we need to stand strong with all of our marginalized communities who are here, who have spoken out, who are towing the line, and who have put in the work already in the past. So that's what I have to say about that. And Ed, we are ready to have you wrap it up.
Right. So I'm glad I stopped talking earlier. Remember I said I could go on for an hour, but my gosh, what we heard tonight was just so much more important. And the reason it was more important is because there's a personal aspect to every one of you who spoke. And thank you so much for all speaking so eloquently. And we need to learn from that. As we move out of here, we have to let our elected leaders know about these and any other issues that are causing problems in our lives, in our families' lives, in our friends' lives. And I'll just say to you, we've heard this from congressional staff, that emails largely go ignored. Some intern or maybe AI chooses, response number 4, you get some automated letter or email back. We need to call them every time we see an issue that affects us. And whether it's, how cuts in VA healthcare are affecting a veteran in your family, how cuts to Medicaid are threatening nursing home care for a loved one or a disabled adult in your family, how the tariffs and the damage to our economy are killing your retirement savings and driving our inflation higher. There's also nothing like showing up, and damn, we proved that tonight. There will be many more opportunities for us to demonstrate our concerns. We are not going away. And finally, there are elections every year. This year, we vote for county, local, and school board officials, people who have a direct effect on our communities. I urge you to think globally, but act locally with that in mind. Too many of these races go decided by too few votes. So please, please, do not sit out this year's election. But next year, we get to choose a congressperson. If we don't work hard, we can elect somebody who will actually come and talk with us about the issues that are important to us. We've got important work to do, and my friend Amy is going to walk us through how we're going to start that work.
Can I make a request that we have a forum that informs this community about the judicial races coming up soon? And they're the folks that are going to talk about voting.
Good point, okay.
So I think those forums would come through your local Democratic organizations. So I'm sure those are being planned.
My knowledge.
They will be. I'll make sure. All right, so I have some calls to action. So what do we do now? I have some specific events that are coming up that hopefully you'll take part in, and like one of our speakers said, invite a friend. This Saturday, we have a Tesla takedown protest, 12 to 2 o'clock at the Warminster dealership. You can park in the nearby parking area, nearby shopping area. We did that about 3 weeks ago. We had about 100 people there. So I would say, if you're available, please come and join us for that. Also on Saturday, the Resistance Rangers, which is a online group of park rangers, are doing their second Protect Our National Parks rally. That'll be Saturday at all your local national parks. We don't have many close to us, but if you have friends that live near a national park, that would be a great thing to encourage them to go to support our national parks. Every Friday outside Fitzpatrick's office in Langhorne, there is a protest rally from 5 to 6 p.m. every Friday. Bring signs. The big one is coming Saturday, April 5th. National Protest Day in DC, in Philadelphia, and across the country, all major cities and towns. Hands off our democracy, hands off our healthcare, hands off Social Security, hands off our data, hands off public schools, hands off our bodies, hands off our wallets, hands off our public lands. So please check for more information about that, where you can go to either a major city or a nearby location. How many people here are on 5 calls? Do people here do 5 calls? So we should all be on 5 calls. It's 5calls.org. It's also an app for your phone. It provides scripts to call your senators and congresspersons. You can do that every day. You can do it once a week. I try to do it twice a week. So if you're not on that, please take a look. You put in your zip code and it tells you who to call and what issues are important. We have a non-violence peacekeeping training, Monday, April 21st at Salem Church. It's limited seating, registration is required. There's a flyer about it out in the hallway. Join Doylestown Action League, Indivisible Bucks County, Indivisible New Hope Lambertville, Upper Bucks Indivisible. Join 50501, your local Democrats group, all on social media platforms, and sign up for their newsletters. We have all the information on the table out front, and Lolly did a little small handout with all that information as well. And please stay connected through social media. I know not everyone likes being on it, but it's really important now to get the information out quickly. So all those groups are on social media.
Amy, a good question. Social media, I'm off of all of it. I mean, other than LinkedIn for professionals.
So if you join Doylestown Democrats email list, Doylestown Democrats has a really good email, and everything goes onto our email, all our calls to action. We're sending about 2 emails a week with all this information on it. If you don't live in Doylestown, you can still join it, and probably your other municipal groups will have that as well.
Indivisible is also great with email.
Indivisible has emails as well, so Indivisible will send out, I know New Hope Lambertville and Bucks all have weekly emails that come out with all this information. And are we going to take any questions, or you think we're out of time?
I think I said we just one more speaker.
We wanted to, oops, here we go. Welcome our friend.
Adrienne King.
To speak, and then as I sat here when I heard you wrapping up, so I really I feel like everyone has done a fantastic job of giving you calls to action, how to engage us all in the process of making sure that we are holding our elected officials accountable, making sure that we get the right people in the right places to make the decisions that are best for all citizens of the United States. I more wanted to come up to make an introduction. My name is Adrienne King. I'm the president of the Bucks County NAACP. And I wanted to make that introduction because, as Lolly alluded to, the NAACP has been at the forefront of the civil rights movement since its conception, right? And as we sit and we watch the things that are happening that are really crumbling and taking away all of that work that has been done for years, I want those in the room to know that we here in Bucks County are committed to fighting against that here locally. So while we all are going to take actions to hold our elected officials accountable, making sure that we do make ourselves available to support those right here in this county. My husband and I also own a local cafe in Percy. I cannot tell you the number of Black and brown immigrants, LGBTQ, that have come to the cafe to find me. The NAACP has never had a president who has been in this part of the county. It's been an organization that has mostly been in the lower part of the county because that's where the representation is. We intentionally made the move for a time such as this to place me here because we know that there's a need. And what I'm hearing is the experiences of those groups is getting worse because of the environment that's been created. And so we are doing what we can to support them, to advocate for them, to empower them, but also to educate those And so one of the things that we held here just a few months ago was a diversity, equity, and inclusion and critical race theory town hall, where we wanted the voices that oppose those things to be in the room. I see Judge Waite in the back, he was our facilitator of that. We're gonna continue to hold that series. We have another one planned in April, we have one planned in June, and we're gonna have another one in September, and we're moving them around the county. What we also are doing is being very intentional about holding forums where we are educating students, because that's where all this conversation that we're having as adults, my 6th and 7th grader are coming home with these same conversations, but it's uninformed that they're hearing their parents saying they're being used as weapons in the classroom. So we want to make sure that our students understand what their rights are, that parents understand how to advocate for their students and what laws are there to protect their students. Because we have to make sure that the people here have what they need to manage through this time that we find ourselves in until we can get the right people in place to do the things that we want to do. So I just wanted to make an introduction. I know Lolly did have us on the list. Sometimes it's helpful to see a face. It's easier to connect with a face than someone that you know. But thank you everyone for showing up, your energy, your power. Late, and I thought I was going to walk right in and get a seat. And I said to my husband, I said, oh, it's standing room only. But thank you for coming out and getting me and seating me here. So I just wanted to make an introduction and really, allyship. It's a word, but there's no meaning to it if there's no action. So really engaging in being an ally and understanding what that means from that person's perspective is so important at a time such as this. So that's all I had to say.
I just wanted to mention quickly, we talked about reaching out to our representatives, through calls, all of that. There are stamp postcards.
Come on up here. We've got microphones. Get on. I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you.
On the front table, right to the dispatcher, right to the people who you elected, who other people elected. There are postcards up front. Please take them.
We don't have a great deal of time, but questions?
Could I just, I wanted to add to what you just said, Hannah. No, that's okay. I find it extremely disappointing. I reached out, I made the calls, and I was not heard. Okay, just one voice. But when I called Brian Fitzpatrick and identified the issues with Medicaid are more serious than anybody can ever imagine. Not because maybe we're the receivers of Medicaid. It's a lot more involved than that. And the quote I got was, well, you know, it just didn't happen yet. And I'm just appalled that, yes, we do call, we reach out, but I don't think they're paying attention to us. Thank you, that's my.
There's how well it's received, there's also volume. And this is the other thing we keep hearing too. They react when their staff are telling the phones have been off the hook. I keep hearing people calling 100 times a day about Medicaid, about farms support, whatever the issues. So no, it may not seem like you're getting heard, but the volume of calls does have impact. We know that. You know, a mayor of one of the local communities, when the freeze took place, talked about how the phones of the Congress people were ringing off the hook. It's part of the way that some of the freezes got undone. Yeah. They're never going to say that publicly. Okay, so it's keeping up the pressure. It's not relenting. It's making sure the phones ring off the hook, because that's what the staff members will tell their members of Congress. You had a question?
Hi, I'm kind of new to the area, a few years, but he's been reelected. Apparently he got enough votes to get in. But I want to know, has anybody called, like the governor or somebody, to complain about his unqualified and lack of doing his job properly. Almost every other politician has town hall meetings. Why can't he? Rallies, we've had 2 rallies. I'm gonna ask hands if you don't mind. Who's been at the 2 rallies down in town, past 2 Fridays, Saturdays? Okay, that's pitiful. Maybe 10 hands went up? Sorry, people. I'm pissed off as hell. And I'm petrified that I have put my birth certificate, passport, important papers together in case I have to get the hell out of this country. I don't know if people really realize how shit and scary this is getting. Having meetings with Putin, man, it's getting scary. And I'm sorry, making phone calls, I think it's a waste of time. Maybe they're hearing us, maybe they're not, I don't know. Because if the Dems don't have control of the House, then what is gonna get passed? Schumer voted to pass the thing. He did it, but nobody understands, and the guy's getting slammed for it. He had 2 different sides, why he felt it was important to pass it, so that 100% of stuff wouldn't get shut down, and Trump couldn't just pass things on his executive order stuff. Nobody understands it. The politicians have to explain, like you've done with some things here, to the people so that you understand what is going on.
Thank you.
How many people are feeling like she was? Like everybody, okay? Yes, we're with you. Got my passport, got my kid's passport, it's terrifying. Okay, Heidi, go for it.
I didn't get a chance to address Fitzpatrick, and I just wanted to quickly say, Representative Fitzpatrick, this year, and we're March, right? We have assisted 8 to 9 individuals on their way to U.S. citizenship that will be voting in your district.
Hi, I am also very terrified about what's going on and find myself, I work for myself, I'm not being affected by government cuts, but I find myself very distracted at my work, and I find that a lot of other people do as well. So if you're experiencing that, you've got a lot of company, I'm sure, in this room, just feeling constantly like I want to know, but I don't want to know. And I do find that when I show up to things like this, or I show up to demonstrations, that it is very reassuring. It may not have immediate effect, but there's community in it, and there's purpose in it, and it does help me. I'm a very grounded person. This has ungrounded me in ways that I never would have expected in my life, and I'll be 69 years old this year. So, but the other question I have is, when are we gonna know, I hope it's really, really soon, who is gonna run against Fitzpatrick? I know that the theory is this. The theory is that the sooner they put the name on the ticket, the more time it gives the opposition to do whatever they want to do to try and tear the person down. I personally think that the campaign to unseat Fitzpatrick should be a high, high priority for all the Democratic organizations in this district. And I really hope there's a lot of proactive, whether it's news coverage, even if you don't name the person, that the papers cover things and that the action to unseat Patrick, because this isn't just Trump, this is the Heritage Foundation, and people need to stop saying that it's Trump and Musk and Trump and Musk. It is. It's the Heritage Foundation.
And the Independence Law Center.
Say again?
It's so many.
It is. And I just think that we really need to find a strong, articulate, capable person to unseat this absentee person who has done nothing to represent us.
There's lots of people. I just want to take a second to just reiterate what somebody said earlier, that one of the biggest elections that we need to worry about right now is the judge elections. That they're the ones who are holding the line for us.
Yeah, we probably didn't thoroughly address that question when it came up, but.
You know what, it's for another rally. Who wants another one?
So I have a question. The young lady that was saying that postcards don't do anything, or writing and calling. I feel your pain. I worked very, very hard during the Obama election than, of course, against Trump. I too wonder, what is it that we should be doing as a whole, right, collectively? So there are those that storm the Capitol. I think we would all be shot. But, so what is it that we can do? Going to Fitzpatrick's office, I think is a great idea. And, you know, sitting there, but like, I feel like there's gotta be something that we can do with a peaceful protest on a large scale somewhere that it is seen. I just feel like we do these things and it's the same faces, it's in the same places, and people are just bored of it. I think we need big action, something serious. Like, I don't know, stopping traffic on I-95, everyone lying down. I have no idea, but it's gotta be big, because it's not getting heard. So, that's it.
Yeah, go for it.
I just want to add to what you said. I'm sorry. What's your? What Teresa said. Big is great and big is important, but what's equally important is consistency, right? We heard the NAACP president talk about the civil rights movement. That succeeded because of sustained, consistent action.
Thanks. I know everybody has there's so many topics and so many things that everybody is that are happening. And just there's one thing that wasn't mentioned tonight was the cuts to the NIH, which is pretty serious. My daughter is a young scientist just starting out. She works in a lab where they're looking at when an organism is under stress, there's granules that form in the brain, and they're looking to see if those are the things that turn into plaques that cause Alzheimer's. So, you know, that's just one little thing. There are many, many other scientists working on very valid things, and the cuts are just unbelievable. They don't know if they'll get the grants funded. They don't know when they'll get them funded. It's just the NIH is just, you know, and the cuts to the universities as well impact science as well. And so my daughter just starting out, she's going to be looking to go to a PhD program, but they're all cutting those. So she's not going to either going to have to go for another line of work or look overseas. So we're going to have a serious problem down the road when all our young scientists don't have a path to continue, and the current science that's happening might not be getting funded. So, and just as another aside, some dystopian craziness, my husband works for the New Jersey Department of Transportation, where he works with the Federal Highway Association, I forget the exact names. But, you know, they were in tears when they were on a call with them, and they were having to scrub their documents of all kinds of words. Words like energy. It's like out of a dystopian novel. Anyway, another thing to ask Brian Fitzpatrick, no more cuts to science, refund the NIH.
Okay, I just want to say really quickly that one of the things that I take some comfort from, I'm scared too, but it's like the reference to the civil rights movement I think is really pertinent, that it took a long, long time and it was brutal. It was almost unbelievably brutal. And so here we are, and I remember the Civil War.
You look so good. You look
Protests, and the country fell apart over the Vietnam War. And it changed things. That there's things that are happening on two different levels. One is the big stuff and trying to get everybody's attention, and the other is the cohering together like the farmers have asked us to do. So there's the community joining up in fellowship to encourage, and that means to give each other courage to carry the fight forward even when it doesn't feel like it's making any progress. And there is also the big stuff that makes a big dent in public opinion at large. So we're working on both levels, and honestly, not a lot of us have had the experience of this level of horror. But there are a lot of people who have gone before us who do have that experience, and we can learn from them.
My name is Clyde Waite. I got elected judge here in Bucks County. For those people who say that just calling is not important and has no effect, you're wrong. You are wrong. They are listening. The fact that they didn't respond does not mean they're not listening. There's been a saying that we had, "There go my people, I must catch them, for I am their leader." And that's the truth. I did voter registration work in Lowndes County, Alabama in 1965. Several of us were killed. We got the civil rights, the statute passed, and I'm getting a little bit because it was tough. People got killed. But we got that bill passed, and a number of other things happened. Change is slow, but you have to work at it. For me, as a black person, being elected on a countywide basis here in Bucks County was unheard of. And I'm the son of a mother who never learned to read or write. And 9 of us were raised by. You cannot give up, because the fact is the politicians are listening. The fact that you're here without the congressman being here, people are taking notice of that. So please don't think that because you're not hearing anything doesn't mean they're not listening.
May I? I'm here, or I just want to say something real quick on a very personal level. I'm a Jewish woman. I know that we have a lot of Jewish people in this group or in this room right now. I just want to say that Trump's administration is weaponizing anti-Semitism to take away people's rights. And I just want to say that that is on purpose, because Jewish people, along with a lot of other people, have led civil rights movements for this country or in this country. And it would be very beneficial for progressives to tell Jewish people, you're not part of us anymore. But I want you to know that not in our name. He's not going to weaponize anti-Semitism or, quote, fighting anti-Semitism in our name. So please make sure that you involve Jewish people in your activism, because we have been here. A lot of us are here. A lot of us are progressives, and we are here in this fight.
All right, I think we're just about the end. I'm just going to share a little something about my background. So I made most of my career working for a union, the New Jersey Education Association. I've heard a lot of the discussion here, and I love the references to the civil rights movement and fighting anti-Semitism. And I'll just share with you what we used to say in the union movement. It was 2 things: sustained action and unity. And that's what we need coming out of this room, going forward, and when we come back here again. Sustained action, unity. We got to stay together and politics. Thank you all for being here.